So today we are sitting with someone who has not only shaped the recruitment industry, but been a mentor, not just to me, but so many others in the industry. He's always available to help you solve any challenge, but more importantly, he's always got the data to back it up. His career in the recruitment industry has spanned various markets, countries, economic changes, and of course, the evolution of tech. Nigel Harse is a straight talker who's given recruitment immeasurable value. And if you're an agency owner not currently benchmarking with Nigel, my wish is that by the end of our conversation, you will be. He's left an incredible legacy on the industry, which continues to this day. Welcome to the Brisbane offices, Nigel.
Sam, thank you. I'm humbled.
Oh, look, that was the short version.
That was the short version. Definitely trimmed down. We'd love to go back to the very beginning. Can we go back to before you got into recruitment? Where did you grow up?
Who are you?
Yes.
Yeah, who am I?
How'd you get to be
I
here?
grew up in a town called Bristol. It's not a town, it's a city.
Yeah.
In fact, it's unique in the UK. Bristol is the only city that is not in a county. Every other city is in a county, i.e. a state. Bristol is a city and county, all of itself, the only one in the UK. And I'm a Bristol boy.
Right.
That's where I grew up.
I really thought it was Gloucester.
Tough, rough city, still. But a wonderful place to grow up.
And so you've had many, many years in recruitment though.
48.
48 years. Did you finish school and expect to be a recruiter?
I didn't finish school. I was determined that I would have a motorbike. And so I bought a motorbike by doing 4 jobs without my mother knowing. And I knocked it into shape at a friend's garage. And the night before my 16th birthday, I went out riding. At that point in time, there was a postal strike. And I didn't have a license. It was in the post. I went out, it was raining, I had a mate on the back, and we came off. And I went into a telephone box, arm first, smashed my arm, went home, went to bed, got up in the morning, and my arm was like a balloon. Mum was in bed, unwell. And I just went down to the local hospital and said, I've got a problem. They looked at my arm. They said, you've got a problem. They said, how did it happen? I said, I fell down some stairs. They said, that would have been like falling off the Empire Building.
Yeah.
What have you done?
Yes.
I confessed. They had to get my mother because I was 16 and they needed to operate. They needed to operate because gangrene could start setting in. And they foolishly told me that I might lose my arm. It was such a mess. When I came round from surgery, my arm was strapped to the bed above me. So when you're coming round, you know they've said you might lose your arm. And I'm there feeling, I can't feel my arm.
Yeah.
I thought they'd cut it off. The poor nurse who saw me waking up copped it. Really did cop it because I thought they cut my arm off. I guess that stopped me going back to school to take my exams. I couldn't write. My arm was set in plaster at that angle, and it was like that for 6 months. So I didn't do any of my finishing exams. I didn't go back to school. As soon as I could start using my arm, I went out and got a job digging holes. And I didn't like digging holes very much. So I got a job as a lift engineer, an apprentice lift engineer. I loved it. It was crazy. We had the contract for all the universities and the halls of residence. And when you get students on the piss on a Saturday night getting 25 in a lift that can only carry 15 people, I've got to go and get them out. And at 3 o'clock on a Sunday morning, I'm going to take my time and let you suffer. So, lift engineer, I loved it. I had fun. I learned a lot. But my mother, being a professional musician...
What was she, a singer?
Well, she was a piano accordionist. And she won national competitions as a kid. I've still got a photo of her at the age of 11 with an accordion which goes from under her chin to her knees.
Wow.
A full-size accordion. And she won one of the big Welsh Eisteddfords at that age. She was a gifted musician. My family broke up when I was a kid. Eventually, my mother won custody. Sadly, back then, in those days, if you think women have no rights today, back in those days, if you left home, that was called desertion, and you had no rights. And it took Mum 3 years to get custody of me. My father was a drunkard and a pig, and that I got into trouble for standing up for my mum. He come home drunk one evening, and I'm stood behind the door with a big pan, and the minute he's come in, I've clobbered him because I knew what he was going to do. And that got me labelled as a troubled youth. And I got put into the troubled youth system with a social worker who I can now say he was a paedophile. I got into trouble. He tried to fiddle with me, and I bit his ear. I took the bottom of his ear off, and I was a troubled child, and that got me into more trouble. Things have come a long way and improved an awful lot, but I grew up in a time where you had to stand up for yourself and look after yourself, and that's what I did.
And so when you got back to your mum, and she was doing all of her work as a musician, how did you transition then from lift engineer to the entertainment industry? Because that's something about you I didn't know.
I love a challenge.
And you weren't entertaining.
No, I don't have a musical.
Do you have a talent?
No, I can't sing. I can't play anything. Being a youngster, I had to do the humping and bumping. She had a big Hammond organ, heavy thing. Took 2 people to lift. The speaker stack took 2 people to lift. So it was me and my mate would drive her around.
You're the roadies.
We were the roadies. And you start talking to the pub owners and what other acts do you have and all of that. And because I'd been driving Mum around to all of these locations, I knew all of the pubs that had entertainment. So I just went back to those places and said, where do you get your acts from? And they said, oh, here, there, everywhere. I said, if you need bands, we're now doing that. And that we started off part-time, the demand grew. I picked up, there was a new TV show, New Faces, which is now known as Australia's Got Talent. I did some work to get in front of the producer and director. I sat and watched them for a whole day. They watched probably 100 people on the stage in a big theatre, and they were crap. There was a lot of unprofessional people on the stage. So I had the courage to go and speak to the 2 guys that were watching, John Pullen and Albert Stevenson, and I said to them, how's today been for you? That good old open question. How's today been? And they just looked at me. I said, how many people from today will actually hit the show? They said, 2. I said, that's awful. What a waste of your day.
The conversion rate's terrible.
I said, if I could promise you a day where you get at least double that, would you be interested in coming back down to Bristol? I'll put a performance on for you. No more than 30 acts. And if you don't take 5, I'll pay for everything. They said, yeah, we'll be down in a month. You've got a month. I put 30 acts on the stage. They took 7.
That's incredible.
And every act had to sign a management contract, which was for 20%. There's a lot of money paid for being in the studio, rehearsals, per diems. There's a lot of money and repeats. And of course we were on 20%. So there were some shows. There was one particular show where we had 6 of the 9 acts on one show. I managed a band called Pride. They won the Winners of the Winners. I spent £1 million getting them ready. I had
which then is...
That was a lot of money. That was a lot of money. I made a lot of money. I was 20, so this was the early 70s.
And you learned early on that it's quality over quantity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Quality counts. Quantity doesn't. And so what made me leave the music industry was the disappointment after we're one day away from signing a music contract with Warner Brothers. I'd spent £1 million, music, new equipment, look, having songs written by proven songwriters in the studio, which back then we had to pay for. The night before we're due to sign the contract, there's 7 musicians, army musicians. They play perfectly.
Yeah.
The front man, Andy, the pretty boy, on the night before the contract said, I'm not going to sign. I said, why? He said, I want more. I said, no, the deal is, it's not 20%. We're all on 11%. And you're on 11%. He said, no, I'm not going to sign. I said, if you don't sign it, guys,
no one gets
it's done.
It's done. It's done and dusted. He said, I'm not signing. So I said, all right, we'll rip the contract up, but I've got a contract on you and you will never sing again as long as I've got this contract. That broke my heart. And I went to Mum and said, I've got to get out. This is killing me. I've wasted so much time and energy, and the disappointment of being so close, so close. After all that we've done, greed by one person has ruined it all. And we've all lost out. And I think that's I learnt a huge lesson from that. I know a lot of wealthy people, and greed, the minute I sense greed, I have nothing to do with them. Because greed is the root of all bloody evils. And that, it was greed that ruined it.
Did he ever sing again?
No.
No.
I won't tell you how, but he didn't sing again.
I had no idea. We've been talking to Nigel for years and
Yes,
years. I had
yes,
no idea until today that you were the Louis Walsh or the Simon Cowell.
Yeah.
I was actually Michael Barrymore's manager. Michael
Yes.
Barrymore was a huge...
He was huge in the
Yeah, I was his manager. It was me who put him on New Faces. That's how he got up and running.
So then what happened? Did you go down, because in those days was a recruitment agency like a shop front down in the high street, and you walk past and went,
yeah,
I could do that.
I said to Mum, I've got to get out. She said, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know, I'll get a job somewhere. So I need training because I don't know how to do anything. I've no skills other than I can talk. I saw a job for a trainee manager. I went into the recruitment company, and it was for a trainee manager within the recruitment company.
Did you say what's recruitment?
It was, they needed someone to start the blue collar sector. They were a white collar recruitment company called SOS Bureau. And this was in 1977, and something just occurred which was called JIT, J-I-T, just in time, which is what temps was all about, just in time. And that we were taught to sell something called the peak load principle, which is your workflow, peaks and troughs. But your staffing level is generally too high. And that when there's a trough, you're not using them. When there's a peak, you're paying them overtime. So we learned how to sell that to manufacturing and logistics, of reduce your static headcount. When you've got a peak, pull us in. And we could prove mathematically that it was cheaper to use us than use your own people on overtime. And so we encourage you to reduce your headcount to what is your minimum,
the troughs,
and we'll top up. And it worked. It's a principle that still works today.
Did it take some time to find your groove? You know, people start in recruitment now, and some people take to it instantly and they just get it, and they're thriving and successful early on. Other people just are a bit more of a slow burn and take a little bit for it to click.
I joined the company. I joined because they were a listed company. They were growing. They had good training and promote from within. And that's all I needed. My training was 2 weeks in the branch, and then you go to Leicester for a week, and you taught the basics of recruitment. Then you go back to your branch for 2 weeks, and then you go back to Leicester for another week. What was different was every day you were examined on the work you done the prior day. So every morning there was a test. If you didn't achieve more than 90% by the end of the week, you're gone.
What would the test be like? What were you having
Well,
to do?
every evening, Frank Swain, the trainer, would give you an A4 sheet with what was called standard parts. And it was scripts, i.e. there was a script for answering the phone. I can still remember it.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Nigel. Where are you calling from? I'm Frank. I'm calling from the corner. Great. That's only 2 minutes away. Do you know where we are? Great. So you could be here by 3. Fantastic. Your name? John. I'll see you at 3. You know where we are? And we were taught how to get people into the office quickly. So I grew up in a pretty strict regime where everything had to be done the right way because we were a listed company and there weren't many listed recruitment companies back then. But being a listed company, if you make a statement in the press, i.e. we're going to make this profit, you've got to do it, otherwise your shares are destroyed. So I grew up in an environment where you knew you had to do what we said we would do. It was great. They trained me hard and measured and managed everything. And so at the end of each day as a temp consultant, I had to phone in 22 different sets of numbers, which was how many starters, how many interviews, how many calls, how many no-shows, how many new clients, how many of this, how many of that. And you interviewed Sophie. Sophie was trained by me, and Sophie may or may not have told you that in the Echo days, on a Friday, as a manager, you had to phone me with your numbers. And if you'd had a bad week, you phoned later. And that was because the good ones got in first, and that you'd just be in the queue. You didn't want to speak to me at 7 o'clock on a Friday after you've had a real bad week, because it was a very short discussion of, all right, you've had a bad week, you've got the weekend to decide what you're going to do about it. We're going to talk about this on Monday morning. So give me a call at 8 on Monday.
I can pitch you on Friday afternoon to try and get the last few deals in to get the numbers up.
Yeah, but I the discipline of follow the process, the process. And that, as a recruitment company, everything we do is a little process. And what I love about recruitment is if you measure it, you can manage it. And that in perms, it's a linear process. And that, yes, you can have lots of jobs, but unless you're interviewing people specifically for that role, you can interview 10 people, but you're not going to fill your job. So for me, knowing that the numbers are somewhere near close, so you can rely on the numbers, what I learned at a very young age is the numbers don't lie, but people do. And the discipline of working a good process and a good system, and learning that there's more business out there than we can ever deal with, and that having market share was down to people like me, getting on the phone, growing the business. But for me, I didn't see it as selling. My job was to find people jobs and jobs for people. And I was a matchmaker. I did that in the entertainment industry. I had to know this particular pub liked that style of music. And if I put the wrong band in there, it was not going to go well. And so for me, understanding those things were very important.
Do you think recruiters today have it easier than in that day? And I guess I think about, you didn't have the tech to support. I know even I started in recruitment, I was handed like a thick wad of printouts of jobs, and it was like, just call through them, and then here's the, the Refidex.
Yeah.
Start calling.
That's the world I grew up in.
Do we have it easier or harder now?
I think we've made it harder. So much noise.
How have we made it harder?
And teamed with, do you think people are as disciplined to just follow the process and follow the training?
It is. But for that to happen, you've got to inspect what you expect. You've got to look under the lid. You've got to see, you've got to look at the quality of what they're doing. Anyone, anywhere, any job, is that the longer you do it, the more you do it, the better you should get. But we know people will peak. It's only a question of, once you've peaked, how quick you're going to come off the boil. I have probably, in my lifetime, got rid of more top performers in companies than most people
Why do you
would
think
ever
that
think
is?
about. Why? Because the top performers are always the ones who are, it's mine. They say to the newbies, you don't have to do it that way. They set the wrong example. They've inherited something. Were good, built it up, and now it's just cruising and cruising and cruising. And so quite often they're in lots of bad habits. They take lots of shortcuts. They hold the newbies down, and they set the wrong example. And that I would challenge any recruitment owner to go and have a look at their top billers' work and see if they get a big tick on following the process from woe to go. Because the process is what makes you reliable as a business.
And it's as you grow, that messaging dilutes, doesn't it, of what the process is, because of just what you've just said. People are like, oh, yes, but we do it different, or our team's different, or it's slightly different for my desk.
And that's why I never recruited anyone from a competitor. I always trained them myself. When I came to Australia, which is a very quick story.
I was just going to say, why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, I was a keen rugby player. But because of my size, I could not play in the position I wanted. I was stuck out on the wing, which is a cold place in England.
Yeah.
When it's -2 and you're out on the wing.
What position did you want?
I wanted to play flanker
Right.
in the pack where it's warm and there's a lot of action. But I was a bit small.
Yeah.
I was tenacious. No fear.
Yeah.
You could be as big as a house, and I was not frightened to stop you. I put my
Don't
body
doubt
on the
that
line.
at all.
And that the rule of use it or lose it in rugby, and no fear, is the process of stopping someone is a particular technique that you learn as a kid. You tackle with your shoulder, and you keep your head this side, i.e. if you tackle with that shoulder, you keep your head that side, so you're going to drive them down and not squash your head.
Yeah.
So you've got to rely on the process of doing it right, because if you tackle someone wrong, you're going to get hurt.
You can show with Norbert later.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to learn the art. And it's an apprenticeship. And being a recruiter is an apprenticeship. And that the art of anything is, you start off as a rookie. How many times do you have to do something to be a grand master?
Yeah.
And for me, it was, how many times do I do it? What do I get from it? All right, I've done it 100 times. I've got that. All right. Do I want to do less, or do I do 100 and see how much more I can get from it? And so for me, it was always about, I'm willing to do what needs to be done. Just tell me what good looks like, show me what good looks like, and I'll have a go.
Yeah.
And that whoever set out to be average, no one. And that's why I love benchmarking, because no one wants to be average.
So from Bristol days
Yep.
to benchmarking, staffing industry metrics now, let's fill the gaps
gap.
then. What happened?
Okay, rugby, pre-season training, local game against a little village called Yatton. I was living in Clevedon, the next village, Yatton. The Yatton and Clevedon boys did not get on, which is not unusual in the UK. The Boxing Day game was a bloodbath. It was always a big punch-up. We used to have the pre-season warm-up with them I had a kick in the back. Didn't think anything of it until a couple of weeks later, and my kidney was shattered. I had to have a kidney removed. I was then a director of the business, and that
This was SOS Bureau.
That
still?
was SOS, yeah.
And you'd been working for how many years doing that?
7 promotions in 13 years.
Yeah.
And that there were 3 of us that were on the same course that started. I was the first to become the first director of the group, but 3 out of a group of 14 got to become directors. So I was playing rugby, kick in the back, thought nothing of it. 2 weeks later, serious problem. Said to my boss, I've got to go in, I've got to have surgery, I'm going to be out for a month or 2 at least. My boss said, no problem. While I was in hospital, I was headhunted. And
how did that look like at that
was
day?
just
Because
about
I'm
to
not
say-
being funny, but LinkedIn wasn't around.
No.
Did
You're not sitting
they
there
on your
on a
mobile phone
phone.
scrolling?
No.
How did
Yeah.
they headhunt you?
it was Echo, a French company. And they knew that we had been acquired by an American company, and they equally knew that all of us as directors were unhappy. We were unhappy because we'd been lied to during the acquisition process. We'd grown from 32 to 169 locations in 13 years. We were good. We were one of the best around. And then they got us in the room and said to us, no more growth. We want you for the cash. You're cash positive. Our other business units are sucking up cash. We need your cash to support those.
Yeah.
So no growth for a year. Let's just milk the profit. And that just didn't sit well with any of us. Our competitors knew about that, and they phoned the local office and were looking for the local directors. And all you've got to do is, where will I find your director?
Yeah.
And someone will
In
tell
the
them.
hospital. Yeah.
Yeah, and they said he's in hospital. Oh, really? What's wrong with him?
Yeah.
You know, the usual recruiter questions. Oh, that's not good. Which hospital? I want to send him something.
Yeah.
And they phoned me in the hospital.
That must feel absolutely bonkers to the new generation of recruiters, of hunting someone down to that degree of true headhunting.
Yeah. I signed myself out. Flew to
Of
Paris.
hospital.
Yeah. Flew to Paris for the interview. Had a 2-hour interview with the chairman. He said, well, I'll be in touch tomorrow and we'll decide where we're going. Tomorrow came and he said, I want you to come back to Paris to meet the regional director. We've got 2 businesses in Australia we've acquired, and they're both going wrong. They're both going downhill. $7.5 million of sales, and we're losing $500,000. We want someone to go out and sort it out. I said,
Why?
I can do that.
Why was that really appealing? Because a lot of people don't want to
too
join.
hard.
Don't want to join something that's going down. They want to join a successful business. They want, to walk into.
Yeah, I've always been a rebel.
Yeah.
I was always a naughty boy. I was always breaking the rules, but my results were exceptional. And if you want to be a naughty boy, if your results are good, you can get away with it. That's what I learned. And
No, you cannot.
yeah.
Not here.
So what I had intended to come to Australia back in 1982. I was travelling with 2 Aussies and we were heading this way, but we got stuck in Israel for 8 months, where I beefed up, learnt to play proper rugby with South Africans, put on a couple of stone, beefed up, because when I got on the kibbutz, they found out I was a recruiter. And the kibbutz had 40 volunteers, and the woman who was allocating the work to the volunteers said, you can do it. That's your job. So I was given the job of organising the volunteers of, you'll go to the cotton farm, you're going to the plastic factory, you're in the kitchens. I had that knocked over in half an hour.
Yeah.
So I had all day to get fit. So I used to swim for 10K, run for 10K, play tennis, play soccer, just get fit. My mother had a heart attack. I came rushing home, and that was the end of my spell in Israel, but when I got home, I was bigger, fitter, faster. Went back to the rugby club and said, let me have that position.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Do they give
They
it to
looked at
you?
me and said, you're looking a bit bigger. I said, yeah, I'm a lot fitter too, and I'm hungrier. So they stuck me on the wing, and I eventually got to play where I wanted. I come from a big rugby family. My younger cousin, little Andy, 6'8", played for England. My family were part of the establishment of Bristol Rugby Club.
Yeah.
So rugby has always been a big part of my life. And I did play again after the kick in the back. Is that they said you'll never play again.
So out here in Australia, you played?
I had to fly back to Paris every month for a board meeting. The board meetings were on a Friday.
That's a lot of travel for
Oh,
that
yeah.
time.
We would be finished by Friday lunch. I would jump on a plane from Paris to Bristol, a 40-minute flight. I would turn up out of the blue on a Friday and say, I'm available tomorrow. I can play. And then I'd fly home on Sunday.
Oh my
And so I didn't play rugby out here because Melbourne, there were only 6 or 7 clubs. And that I always put my body on the line. And as CEO, I couldn't turn up with my nose
Looking
over
all
there.
other side.
and
Although
a
I've
big
seen you
black
online
eye.
with a whole bunch of teeth missing.
Yeah, I truly put my body on the line, and that a cut or a broken nose or broken hand just didn't bother me. That was just the price you pay for doing your job. And so sport, competition, rivalry, I think all of those set me up perfectly to be a recruiter. You can write your own future as a recruiter. If you're good and do what you're trained to do, as a kid who left school with no qualifications to become the youngest director on a board, a listed board, and then be headhunted to come to Australia, and what I wanted to do was to see if I could do it my way. You know, we don't always
Yeah.
agree with the way
Yeah.
a company does it. It was my chance.
And what was it like when you got out here and you had 2 branches, they were losing money?
Was
Oh,
it
it was
behind
2
the UK?
companies.
Was it
7
2 companies?
branches.
Sorry, 7 branches. Yeah, all losing money.
And what made it worse, the 2 companies had 2 French managing directors. I'm English. I don't like the French.
Yeah. It's like-
Sorry. There was a lot of nepotism in one of the businesses, all family. And that wasn't good. I inherited 75 staff. Within 6 months, I got rid of 64 and decided that the best way to make money was let the poor performers go, bring people in and train them myself.
So if you let that many people go in a 6-month period, what was the feeling among the people who were left behind, or not left behind, but who
Yeah.
made the cut?
Who was selected.
And then for people you're bringing into the business, you know, what was the culture like? What was it? Was that even a thing?
The
Was
first, I must be honest, 1991, which was my first year here, was the toughest year of my life.
Yeah.
It really was, because it's not easy to let people go. But I'd had good practice in the UK because I've been given the poor performing divisions where you've got to go in and clean it out,
Yeah.
tidy it up. If you saw me with a red tie, you knew there was going to be blood spill.
Yeah.
And that I would put on a red tie just to get myself in the right
More ready.
headspace to do what had to be done. And that do what needs to be done is something that people need to wake up to. That if you do what needs to be done, you will get the right result in anything that you apply yourself. But it's doing what needs to be done.
It's hard
So-
to do the hard things, isn't it?
It is, but you only learn from the hard
From
things.
the hard things.
And that, for me, my challenge, having no qualifications, was to see how far I could go. And it was a bit of a giggle. It was just a challenge. And I still laugh and joke. And receiving a message from my first MD this morning saying, your name was mentioned last night. I know. The last words were, I hope you're enjoying life like you always did. Is that I grew up in a great place, in a great time, with great training that was hard, tough, and if you didn't cut it, you were gone. And that I understood the consequences of not following a process. For every promotion, my locations were audited. And if we didn't achieve more than 90%, you didn't get your pay rise or your promotion. And that inspect what you expect, I grew up with, and that most companies do not spend enough time looking after the process. Is that newbies come in and they take little bits out, little bits out, little bits out, and suddenly your process is all fragmented. And that we've built a good recruitment process that has gone downhill. Recruitment is about leverage. I pass my skills on to you, you pass your skills on, and it's a bit like a pyramid, really. And that...
In the best possible way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to say, with all of the markets, so like you've seen recessions, you've seen COVID, what's been the toughest market that you've seen?
Do you know, I would have thought, I was going to say COVID, but COVID was a sugar hit for the industry. It created so much demand that changed the industry in two ways really quickly. There was a glut of jobs, and with certain lockdowns and restrictions, work from home and working online started to come around. The work from home, I don't know how, as a recruitment consultant, you have fun doing your job at home. For me, the fun was the people I work with, the mickey taking, the challenge of, I'll get more temps out than you. Being in the environment was what I loved. And so I love a recession as much as I do the sugar hit of COVID. Is that I don't care what the market is. Every day's a perfect day. If it's job rich, it's candidate poor. If it's candidate rich, it's job poor. So you find people for jobs and jobs for people. And if you learn to do both, it doesn't matter what the market is. There's so much available out there. It's only a question of what are you going to do to get your share.
Yeah.
And that for me, I arrived here in a recession. Every recruitment company was closing doors. We opened 30 locations, most of them shop fronts, and everyone said to me, recruitment companies don't have shop fronts. I said, we do. We had shop fronts because we had blue collar. We would be in an area, the strip, where people would walk by to get their sandwiches. We had jobs in the window. If you walked through London, at one point I had 7 branches on Oxford Street. Yeah. I could walk to 14 branches within 5 minutes. The concentration of recruitment companies in London throughout the 80s and 90s was the highest density of recruitment companies anywhere in the world. And I had 70 locations before I moved here to manage. And that you've got to be on your toes. When a good candidate walked in the door, we'd lock the door. Yeah. They weren't allowed out until we found them a job. And that's the world we grew up in, which is walk in, get a job, walk out, and it has to be done. Because we knew if they walked out, Jonathan Wren or Alfred Marks were next door, and they'd walk out of my office, walk into the next one and get a job there. So we learned that it isn't the action of interviewing. It's what you do after you've interviewed.
And so do you think now that people aren't walking into shop fronts and they're doing those registration interviews over the phone? You know, I remember going into Office Angels in London and doing a typing test and literally not leaving until I had something to go to the next day. How, you know, that is obviously lost when people can hang up and call someone else or do an online inquiry. How do we keep them
sticky if we can't lock the door?
Yes. How do you
it is more of a challenge now. But that challenge is not a new challenge. It is about creating relationships. It is about understanding that as a candidate, you are a person. You want to pay your bills. The only reason you're coming to me is you can't do it yourself. I grew up on temps. I had to do perms until I proved I could do perms. My best month was 13 in a month. I got the tick, yeah, you know how to do perms. What I learned about perms was the fun in taking someone off of the job market. So I would interview, and my job was to find out exactly what you wanted, and by the end of it, I would work to say to you, Kate, you've seen me make 3 calls, I've not found you any work. However, when you have a look in the paper and you see a job that you think is yours, don't apply for it. Phone me, let me know which job, why you want it. I'm better at doing it than you. I do this all day long, every day. You've only changed careers twice. So let a professional like me deal for it. If they agreed, then I knew I've got a candidate. And that was my aim on perms, was to lock people down, keep them away from my competitors. But I had to work. I had to work fast, and I had to live up to my promises. And if I didn't, then I had to say to a candidate, I've tried, I haven't found you anything. I think you need to knock on a few more doors. But if I do find something, I'm going to be straight in touch.
So we need to create that visual for recruiters now of imagine if they were in your office and you were doing all of those things. Because I remember you training me just like that, where we would say exactly that to them. See something else, come back to us, because I probably can open that door better for you than going directly. Like we used to always say.
Totally.
But that could still work today.
Absolutely.
People are sending more and more information about themselves here, there and everywhere.
Yeah.
And that there's more information out there. That's noise. The information needs to be with professionals like us who know what to do with it, tidy it up, make it look good.
And it's that quality piece again, isn't it? It's trying to identify which of those candidates are going to want to work with you in that way and work with less people, but properly and thoroughly.
And so for me, temps, that was easy. I just got to keep them working. Keep them working. And I loved the hustle and bustle. For perms, it was, you've got to make use of it, lose it, use it, lose it. And I've always stuck with that throughout my life. Use it or lose it. You've heard it today. Everything has got a limited lifespan. And people who are looking for a job, if they're not confident that you're going to find them the job, they'll go anywhere they can to find that job.
Especially when they're hot on the market, ready for work.
Oh, absolutely. And that is can do, will do. If I've got someone that is real good and I'm a recruitment specialist, I should know my niche. If I don't know 13, 15 companies that I can talk to you about, then I don't know my niche. And if I don't have the courage to phone them up and say, Kate, this is Nigel from SOS. We've not spoken. The reason I'm calling you is I've just got the very best so-and-so in front of me, and they want to work for your company. Your company's come up, so I'm calling on her behalf. And that I do that in front of them. When they walked out, they would tell their friends, I've had someone actually do something for me. And I used to chuckle. My knees were knocking under the desk when I'm doing the call.
My live beat.
The heart was going.
If they hang up on me.
But the adrenaline gets you through. And watching someone's face when you're doing it, that you've come in, I'm not going to waste your time. I'm actually going to do something that other recruiters won't do. And that is, I'm going to do some work that you see me doing. I'm not going to talk about it. You watch.
And so now if they're not there physically with you to see you do the work, it's that calling them straight afterwards to say, hey, just so that you know,
this is what I've done.
I've just made 5 calls to these people and these are the conversations I've had. No news yet, but tomorrow I'm doing X, Y, Z.
And that's all you've got to do.
But that's
I'll let them know. I've done some work. I've called these companies. I've phoned these where you've been before. There's nothing happening. Keep looking. The amount of times I've made a reverse marketing call. Someone's available. I've phoned all the companies I know, and they've all said, no, not today, thanks. We're all right. The amount of people that phoned me back on Monday and said, we want that one. I said, sorry, you had your chance. I told you I was going to find them. My favourite used to be, they used to work for Manpower. They're now working for us. So if you want them back, my name's Nigel. This is my number. put a line through the other one because they're now working for me. And I used to love doing that. That was fun.
So,
No, go on, you go.
no, I was moving on.
I was going to ask about when you came out to Australia then and you were the CEO of Adecco.
Yep.
How did you go then from being CEO of Adecco to all of a sudden creating the benchmarking?
That's exactly where I was
Like,
going.
I was
So I was
like-
like, you clearly love it so much to be doing the doing, to be training, to be mentoring people on the floor. Like,
Yeah.
you're so passionate about it.
I am.
That must have been,
How did it-
removed? How did it happen? And why did it happen?
I think inherently I'm a problem solver, and I'm a softie. I love people, but I know to be a softie, you've got to be
equally a little hard.
you got to be hard. If you love them, you got to be tough on them. A soft trainer is going to get you nowhere. You're
Unclear
still going to be
enough is
flabby.
unkind.
If you don't want to be flabby, get a trainer who's
Yes.
going to push you. And I learned that myself. And so for me, I had a 1-year non-compete globally.
Why did you leave Adecco?
I left Adecco because I lost my trust in the chairman. There's two things about building a company. A, you've got to build it, then you've got to learn how to defend it. And that defending it is as important as you grow as growing it. Because once you get good, people know you're
Everyone
good and they want to
comes
just
for
pick
you.
off your top performers. And
Or you're not top performers, as may be the case.
Or even
thinking
just
they're
the
getting a
things-
quick
Yeah.
bite.
Or just the things you do.
Yeah, and so for me, the process of what do you do to keep your competitors at bay? And I promise you, my name in the 90s, you knew not to mess with Nigel Harse.
Because he's such a softie.
And because I was a defender of the faith.
Yeah.
I had 100-odd people working for me, and my job was to protect their jobs and keep their careers going. And I was a defender of the faith. My job was to keep us all safe and protect everyone. And if you walked out of the company and thought you were smart and took your records, I would have the door kicked down. And we'd take our records back and you'd be in front of the judge. And that I had to use the legal process to protect the business. But once we set a precedent, people knew, he's best left alone. You don't want to pick a fight.
So then when the two companies then merged, I imagine that would have been a tough one to swallow. And that would have, knowing that you've just been fighting them.
I was called over to Paris and told, and I just said, I'm resigning. I'm out of here. The chairman couldn't believe it. I was earning an awful lot of money. And he said, you've worked so hard. You've got your choice of what you want to do in this new business. I said, I don't want to do anything. I don't believe you, and I don't believe the other chairman. You both gave me your word about something, and you've both lied. You've broken your promise. And that, after all these years, if I can't trust you, I don't want to work for you. That broke my heart. And I had a year of soul searching of what do I want to do. I didn't want to go back and run a recruitment company. I was offered lots of jobs, but I was going back to do what I'd already done. And I'd learned how to do it well. I'd built a big business. I didn't want to go back and do that, but I still have the passion for recruitment. And so I needed to find something else to do. And so all these people who were offering me jobs, I said, well, I'll come and do where's your biggest problem? I'll come and help you sort that problem out. And so I started consulting. And then the same question of how do you think we're going? I needed a true way to answer that question. And that's how I started benchmarking. I took up a challenge. There was an accounting firm in Melbourne that were doing a lot of work for recruitment companies. They were well known. Two accounting firms merged and became worse. 1 and 1 made half. It wasn't 1 and 1 make 3. They were going downhill real quick. I knew the owner of one part of the business. He said, can you come in, have a look at the business and tell me where we're going wrong? Yeah, absolutely. This is my charge rate. He said, great, we'll pay it. It took me an hour to understand where they were going wrong. They had lots of accountants. None of them were keeping their billable hours. No one was keeping track. No one was
productive.
There was no productivity measures, and that accountants were being paid a lot of money and not even billing half their wage. All we had to do was tighten up. When you're doing productive work, make sure it's paid for, and that you're not doing enough productive work. We've got more work. Move it over. I became the CEO of an accounting firm just for the fun of it, and we turned that around within 6 months. After a couple of years of being a part-time CEO of an accounting firm, I had access to recruitment companies' data because we were doing their management accounts. And I said to all of the companies we were doing the accounts for, you keep asking me this question. How about I aggregate your accounts and I give you back some information about how you're doing compared to the accounts that we're doing? And that's how it began.
How many companies did you start with?
Oh, I think it's 12. 12. A small sample, all Melbourne based, but at least it gave us a bit of a guidance of what, out of 12, this one's good. This is what good looks like. This is what bad looks like. No one wants to be average.
And how many are there today?
109.
Yeah. Why do people trust you to give you their data? Because I remember at the point where we first were considering, I was going, who are we giving this to and who's going to see this?
Everyone said you'll never pull it off because people's management accounts are the crown jewels. I built my reputation in the industry as being honest, hard and fair. And that you either loved me or hated me. It didn't matter to me which it was. But people knew I had ethics and standards. So much so, I interviewed a state manager of a competitor. That state manager, while I'm interviewing, I've asked him, so what how many accounts? He opened his case and he pulled out, the old Daisy Whirl printout.
Where it was
connect. He pulled out a pile that thick, which was all of their invoicing over the last 6 months. He said, there's all of our accounts. I said, can I have a look at it? He gave it to me. I said, I'm going to make a call in a minute. I phoned his boss and said to George, I've got so-and-so here, your state manager. He said, oh, yeah. Why are you calling me? I said, he's just given me all of your accounts. In fact, I've got a Daisy Whirl printout of all the business you've done in the last 6 months. I'm calling you. I wonder what you want me to do. Do you want me to give them back to him to give to you? Shall I courier them to you? Or shall I just rip them up? What would you like? He said, no one's ever done that. I said, I'll courier them to you. And they were couriered straight back to George. Doesn't matter George who. And I just looked the guy in the eye. I said, you're not going to be working for me. If you're prepared to do that to someone else and hawk their business around and be a thief and use other people's information thinking that you're going to impress someone, you're going to learn a big lesson from me. And that is, I don't find that acceptable in the industry. You now got to go back to your boss and qualify why you're handing out this type of information. So, for me, the challenge is trust. And knowing that it's in safe hands and knowing that it's in the hands of someone who understands what they've got. And the one thing that people who know me know that you never get me to talk about where I've been, who I've been talking to. You know that yourself. You ask me, where have you been?
I can never get anything out of you.
And I think could you maybe just share what sort of benchmarking you're doing, because I think also it's the value that people obviously see quickly, because you may have felt, oh, should I, shouldn't I? But then obviously the value has been so much so that it's now a no-brainer to understand. So what are you benchmarking? What will people get if they...
Everyone asks me to benchmark activities and all of that. I won't touch it because I don't believe in the numbers that are on the system. What I do believe in are the financial figures that your accountants or your bookkeepers produce. fact, not fiction. So I can benchmark that, and that I know the numbers don't lie, but people do sometimes, but the numbers should give you a pretty accurate view of what's going on. The biggest tip I was given as a youngster in the recruitment industry was manage the trends. When I asked which ones, my boss said all of them. Because if you don't know something's going down and coming off the boil, by the time you bump into it, you've got a problem. It's much easier to deal with it when it's just started than when it's entrenched.
Yeah.
And so for me, I do two things in benchmarking. Everyone provides their P&L. We put their numbers into 5 categories of expense, 3 income streams, productivity from your headcount, and from that, I can look at any company and I can look at 12 months, and within a minute, I can put my finger on what's going well, what's not going well, and I can talk to owners about, this is a historical problem. This isn't a new problem. You failed to pick this up and you've not dealt with it. You need to deal with it because it won't go away on its own.
And I think that's also the beauty of what you do is you've got an incredible platform which is very visual, and you can really change what you're looking at in a second, but it's that feedback that then you are very happy to provide to the owners.
It's the commentary that comes with it.
It is the commentary, yes. It's not just a report that you get or a platform to log into. It's, this is what I'm seeing and this is what I'd like to draw your attention to.
Yeah, very
Which
much.
is so
That's
helpful.
always been very helpful for
It
us.
is. There's only I'm the only person in the world that has live monthly data from recruitment companies. And I'm proud of that. I've achieved what other companies have not. SIA in America,
Yeah.
huge. I met with them. And I met with them to talk to them about their benchmarking report, which is done every 6 months, but it takes them 3 months to produce the report. So what you're looking at is 9 months old.
Yeah.
And it's written. It's not live. It's not it's not dynamic. It's a statement of what's happened. For me, the challenge truly was, how do I make something simple? We use complex information from lots of different management account structures, but we just simplify it. It's one of 5 groups of costs. It's one of 3 income streams. There's only 2 types of people, those that are producing income or they're supporting those that produce. And so for me, when you break it down that way, you can look at so many things within a company and understanding 2 things. No one wants to be average. No one set out to be average. And so using average to encourage people to improve. You've seen me do it many times with teams. They don't like being an average. No one wants to be average. No one set out to be average. And so knowing what good looks like, I've got the data to back it up. People can't argue with me. I know my stuff.
Yeah.
What are the agencies that are doing great? What are the top 3 things that they've really nailed, and particularly probably coming out of that sugar hit of COVID, because I think in the sugar hit of COVID, we're all patting ourselves on the back.
I know.
We're all amazing, but the ones that are really nailing it now, what are they doing well?
They've got off the sugar hit and they've had to change lots of things.
Like what?
The way people are paid. COVID created an environment that was the reverse to what we all were expecting. And it meant that the demand for recruiters just went up through the roof. And throughout that period, people would pay whatever it took to get someone who could fill jobs. Because there were that many jobs, we could pay them well to fill jobs and pay them high commission, because companies were paying over the top to any recruiter who can make my problem go away. That created a once-in-a-lifetime environment of a pandemic that I thought would have destroyed the industry. It created a whole new problem of work from home, work remote, The reason I say it's a problem is I don't know how you can build a team and a team environment that keeps people together, look after each other when they're all working from
Fragmented.
home. And so what are they doing? They've recognised the sugar hit and they've adjusted their remuneration and their commission schemes. I've looked at lots of commission schemes of late, and lots of companies have been overpaying on commission. The next thing they're doing is reinforcing their process, but reinventing their process, i.e. automating what can be automated without losing the personal touch. The next thing is they're empowering their leaders to lead and drive and create change. I've been in the industry for 48 years. The industry has always been growing and changing. But the speed of change now is quicker, faster and different. The jobs I recruited don't exist anymore. Audio typist in the typing pool. I could go to any insurance company and there'd be 100, and all you had to talk to them was about the typing pool, and you could find work for audio typists. Those jobs died out I don't know how many years ago. So the world of recruitment and jobs and work has changed, but it's always been changing. The smart companies are letting automation do the low-hanging fruit jobs, the jobs that are mundane, repetitive, that you don't need highly skilled people for. They're allowing their recruiters or encouraging their recruiters rather than allowing them to spend more time eye to eye with the people that matter. The people that matter are your candidates, your temps, and your clients. And that pushing paper, that doesn't make a good recruitment company. What makes a recruitment company is taking action, either for your candidates or your clients. And that's where lots of companies fall down, i.e. we interview 100 people, but we don't know how many out of 100 we place. When I talk to recruitment company owners and say, what's your fill rate? And they don't know, that frightens me. If you don't know what your fill rate is, you don't know what the waste rate is. And in the world of recruitment, we waste more than we utilise. And that if you have a look out of 100 interviews that we've done, how many people actually got work, that we got through the process, that we've given them work. If it's 10%, I'd be surprised. That means there's 90% of the people that are interviewed that don't get what they came to see us for. That does my head in.
Or how many do you place once and then never again?
Never again.
You know,
You know, you're both seasoned, trained recruiters. You know that speed of action and that the process isn't what makes the money. It's us talking to people and influencing. And what I've learnt today is let's not talk about sales. Let's talk about influence.
We're recruitment influencers. You know, I was just going to, you talked a little bit about a few times about, you know, there's been different things over the years that you thought would be the death of the industry. And, you know, I know we thought Seek would be the death of the industry. I remember when LinkedIn was going to be the death of the industry, and then even Facebook. What do you think is the biggest threat that our industry faces today?
I don't see AI or automation as a threat. I see AI and automation as dealing with the boring processes and the bits that have to be done that don't need highly skilled people. I think that the recruiter today has got to be confident. You've got to be personable. You've got to be prepared to understand that as a recruiter, your job is to influence outcomes, good outcomes for companies and for people. And that hasn't changed in 48 years. It's not. I know I could jump on any temp desk today and do my job better than 9 out of 10 temp consultants. Is that in a day I would get more work done than most of them do in a week. You give me a good temp, let me have a look at the records, and I will show you how to find work for a good temp. And that is action.
And I guess...
So the biggest threat is inaction.
The biggest threat is
Complacency.
inaction.
Complacency,
It's
yeah.
complacency.
You know, we won't stop automation. We won't stop AI. So where does that leave us? It leaves us exactly where we are, which is we're all about people. It's just we use different machines to do different bits of the job, but that understanding and that relationship, bots won't create the relationships, and that if you don't have a relationship with your clients where they're happy to see you, they look forward to seeing you, and that when you meet them, you're adding value to their business or to their lives and helping their business improve. Because I'm absolutely certain of one thing. People only use us when they've got a problem, and that we solve problems. If we do it in a way that makes people smile, they'll keep coming back. AI, automation, it's not going to be a threat. The trade unions were a threat throughout the 80s. They were going to close every agency. I had a battle with the trade unions in the UK. I'm glad I did, because it taught me how to deal with them here. And that is, there's one way to deal with the trade unions, and that is get another trade union to fight them for you. So it was fight fire with fire. I had the meat workers union all over me. We were working in manufacturing, and the meat workers union didn't like it because our temps were on the line. I did a deal with a different union, and part of the deal was you keep those guys away from me. I'm happy to work with your union. We'll give our temps a choice. If you want to join a union, this is the union we work with. If you don't want to be a union member, that's no problem.
So the key is there's always been challenges. There's always been market problems.
Yep.
There's always been a problem to solve.
Yeah.
And the answer is always trying to find out how to do that.
Yeah.
You talked earlier about top billers.
Yeah.
And how you've had to get rid of many in your day. Do
Yeah.
you think that there's a big risk of that complacency or inaction for those people in this market coming off a sugar hit, and where maybe the job did get easier for a bit and now it feels harder, and for when maybe they don't want to do the hard work again, or, you know, what would you say to either the agency owners or to those recruiters who might be feeling that?
I think we've got an awful legacy from COVID.
Very true.
That was job rich, margins were high.
And if you think about the turnover in the industry too, and the amount of recruiters that would have come into the industry in that period, they don't know anything.
They don't know any different. So if you take anyone that's got into recruitment since 2020, they saw the demand. Now we're getting back to the new normal. The new normal is companies do things differently. The new normal, I don't know how many new normals I've been through. Loads in 48 years. But I'm still here. Recruitment companies, there's more recruitment companies around today than there ever have been. And that they're just growing and flourishing. And so do I see AI and automation as a threat? No. Do I see unions as a threat? No. Because if we position ourselves right, we do our job right, we're not a threat to anyone. We're there to solve people's problems. You do business your way. When you've got a problem, we're here to help you out. And that's never changed, and it will never change. Companies need somewhere to go when they've got a problem.
And I think for the recruiters, they need to want to do it. You won't solve those problems if you don't want to. And I think the key is to be successful and to ride those markets or challenges.
Yeah.
You have to want to.
To survive the high, i.e. job rich, candidate poor, that's the market people love.
Yes.
They don't like candidate rich, job poor. Why? Because you've got to work. You've got to work. That means you've got to work hard. I train people to survive in both. And that is, if you've got a good candidate, I want to see you making the calls, looking to find them work. That means when we don't have as many jobs as we need, you're not frightened of getting on the phone and doing what we're paid for, which is to help find people a job. We've got to influence people to buy from us. So if you train people the right way, they'll survive, whether it's good or bad. And I don't call them good or bad markets. They're just different. It's job rich or candidate rich. It's one or the other. Sometimes both stabilise. But normally it's job rich, candidate poor, and that's where we're at the moment. It's not quite so job rich. And so lots of consultants don't know what to do to create more demand.
How do they?
Well, sometimes they
How
do,
do
but
they?
they don't want to.
How do they create more demand?
The easiest way is to sell what you've got. And that is, I've interviewed a good person, focus for a day, 2 days, 3 days on speaking to all the companies that A-class candidate could work at, and let them know what you've done.
Yeah.
Let them know each day. I've spoken to 5 companies today. These are the companies I've spoken to. No joy yet. I've got 5 more I'm going to speak to tomorrow. These are the companies tomorrow. Don't contact them.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. What have you seen that you're interested in? Is there anything happened that you need to tell me about? Those basic skills of being helpful, influencing. I've got to start saying influencing
You're
rather than selling.
recruitment influencers. Nigel, when you look back over your career, where you're at now, like what do you believe is your legacy?
The people I've trained. I understand that knowledge is powerful. It's more powerful when you can pass it on. You've met some of the people I've trained, and they're good. They're some of the best out there. I take pride in coming to Australia and looking back at the people that have worked for me and where they are now and what they're doing now. And there's lots of them in very, very powerful roles that I recruited people and I promised I would change their lives if you follow the process. And I did change their lives. They were doing average jobs, earning average money with not much of a career prospect. I wanted average people who wanted to be good because I could train them to be good and I could take them on that journey. And out of all of the things I've done, that's something that no one can ever take away from you. And that's what gives me absolute pride, is the people I've trained.
You can see it gets you really
know.
emotional.
I know.
You should be
It
so
is.
proud
about
of
that.
of
It's
your
just-
career.
That's what happens if you love them. Train them hard. If you don't train them hard, you don't care enough about them. And yeah, I'm tearing up because I am a softie and I do care. But to show I care, I've got to get you to do the tough things. And if you can't do the tough things, I'm not doing you any good by putting my arms around you and saying, "Oh well, it doesn't matter."
Yeah.
It does matter. You've got to do some tough things. I've done lots of tough things, and that they make you a better person.
Yeah.
I reached out to Sophie Robertson today and said that you were in, and she did verify exactly that. Very, very hard, but extremely fair.
Yeah, it was. I wouldn't ask anyone to do what I was not prepared to do, and I would stand up in the middle of the office and get on the phone and sell temps and say, "If I can do it, you can do it. I've trained you. Do it."
I think that's a beautiful lesson in leadership, isn't it? Of caring for your people,
Yeah.
caring enough to put the work in.
Yeah, and that's why the tears are still there, because if you let them get away with not doing the important things, you don't really care about them. I cared so much that if you can't reach the grade that we work to, I've made a mistake or you've made a mistake. One of us has got it wrong. This is not what you're cut out for. Because if I can't train you and you can't follow the process and you're not enjoying it and you're not having fun and you're not making money, it's not right
it's
for
not
you.
right.
It's best let you go and find a new future. It might be another recruitment company, but if you can't do it our way is the way we want to do it.
Yeah.
And that's why I came to Australia. I had the opportunity to see if the way I could do things would work. And I was given a free rein with 2 companies to do whatever was needed to turn them around. The people I got rid of didn't like me. The people that stayed loved me. And you asked earlier, what was it like in that first year? It was tough. It was tough. I said to everyone, don't ask me for anything for the offices. We're not making money. We've got no money to spend. And that until we make a profit, no one's getting a pay rise. We can't buy anything. But when we make a profit, the first month we made profit, we all went out and got drunk. We drank all the profit.
Yep.
We celebrated because we knew we'd broken the cycle and that profit was possible. And that you got to celebrate the wins.
Yeah.
And you got to party and enjoy and celebrate the wins. And that when it's your win, it's bloody marvellous. And that's what a world of recruitment can do, because you can change lives. And that's my legacy. Although it may be benchmarking. Who knows?
What's going to happen with benchmarking?
No, I've got lots of people who are very interested.
I bet you do.
But I don't trust them.
I was just going to say, I bet it would be really important the right hands it goes into.
Absolutely. So I'm not sure. It's built up. My business model was self-serve, remote. I can do what I do from anywhere in the world. I can benchmark any company anywhere in the world on the platform. I focus on Australia, New Zealand, but I'm just pitching into the UK. I've found a way through a conundrum that might open a few doors for the UK. That's where I grew up in recruitment. I understand the UK market. The numbers are exactly the same. So for me, the challenge is doing something that no one else has done.
Yeah.
It isn't about doing the same thing that I did all of the time. And that for me, it is about the more you do it, the better you should become. And that I hold a very privileged position of being trusted. And that, when you ask me a question, you get an honest answer. If you ask me anything about anyone else's business,
you don't get anything.
You don't get anything. I ignore the question. And that is a privilege. And I'm honoured. And that's a badge of respect you get for doing your job well, keeping your nose clean, and having ethics that I can look at anyone and say, nah, you can never, ever look at me or anyone who's worked for me and say they don't do it well or do it right. And doing it well and doing it right is what I'm proud of. And that's what I embedded in the people that worked for me, and I would never, ever let them off that hook. And that's why it brings a tear to my eye, because the ones that I did let off the hook were the ones that didn't have the courage to go where we were going. It was a journey, and I had to sell that journey to a lot of people, because when you're a small company and you're losing money, life's tough.
Yeah.
But you've got to dig your way out. And I've dug my way out of many holes for many companies. It's a recipe. It all comes back to a few basic things. And the basics, back to basics, they never let you down.
They never do. Nigel, thank you so much. I've always loved any time that I get with you, and every single conversation I still learn so much. Like I genuinely feel there'll never be enough time for us to talk to you, and there'll never be enough lessons that we can learn and insights. And certainly from our business perspective, I've always appreciated the honesty, the straight between the eyes, because you can do something with that. You know where you stand and you know what you can fix. And, I hope that there's many other agency owners that listen to this and jump on the benchmarking, because again, right now, when we're out of that sugar hit, it's even more important to have those metrics there and see how we're all doing and what the new reality looks like.
Yeah, it's changing.
Yeah.
It is changing. There's going to be just continual change, but knowing whether you're good or not, that never changes.
That never changes.
So how do you know if you're any good? Just saying you're good? Or do you want the acid test of being compared to your peers? You can look at your dashboard. You can see what the industry is doing, what the health sector is doing. You can look at other sectors. You can see yourself if you're good or not, or where you fall down. The bit that I carry is the bit that provokes and creates that uncomfortable feeling of
the commentary.
Yeah, and that I get away with it because I've got the numbers to back me up, and that what I talk about is I'm looking at your picture and your journey. And as a commentator, I'm saying, well, this is telling me this. Is it not telling you the same thing?
Yeah.
Is that I've grown up in recruitment. I was told it was a numbers game. And in part it is. The numbers matter.
Yeah.
And for a kid who left school with no qualifications to doing something that no one else in the world can do,
You've got to be pretty
Should be
proud
pretty
of that.
oh yeah, I
Take
am.
that.
You should, yeah.
Take that. You've done
And that's
incredible.
my love of recruitment. And it's never changed. It will never change. It's been a great career. And that I would encourage people, if you believe in yourself and you've got courage and you say you want to help people, get into recruitment, because you can change lives. I know that. I've done it. You guys do it. You change lives. And that's fun.
It's fun. It's
It's
special.
fun.
It is, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.